Thank you. Nickie Aiken.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This government's vital support for businesses and jobs across the country throughout this crisis has been unprecedented. In my constituency of the Cities of London and Westminster, we have seen 11,800 jobs protected under the Job Retention Scheme, £9.1 million worth of support for self-employed, over 440 million of bounce-back loans for small business, 89 million given to out and business grants, and 849,000 meals discounted thanks to the brilliant Eat Out to Help Out scheme. I'm responsible only for a couple of them. Despite this much-needed support, central London is still struggling. Pre-COVID, over 600,000 commuters came into Westminster every day to work, another 500,000 in the City of London. The local economy relies on these workers spending in small shops and independent cafes and restaurants, but they are not coming back in the same numbers. Central London is the economic powerhouse of UK PLC, driving forward this government's levelling up agenda, and is usually the first out of the traps following a recession or downturn. Sadly, this time it looks like we will be amongst one of the last. And that is why I have produced a plan that the government may wish to consider that could help protect jobs and businesses, not only in my constituency, but across the entire country. The furlough scheme has secured hundreds of thousands of jobs in the West End, and I absolutely appreciate the reasons why the government is bringing the scheme to an end next month. And we must do that type of thing to ensure that we sustain our public services. As the MP for Theatreland, I want to make sure that we can protect the theatres even more so. I welcome the government's £1.5 billion cultural support package, but I hope that we can keep the theatres open when they come back in the new year, and a bit more help for them would be welcome.
Will she give way on that point? Does she agree that the arts and arts venues are important all over the country, and that small venues such as the Queen's Park Arts Centre in my constituency of Aylesbury are also incredibly valuable and have benefited greatly from the government's scheme?
My honourable friend is absolutely right, and that's why I welcome this brilliant £1.5 billion extra package. I welcome the Chancellor's announcement in March to review the business rate scheme, which I think is absolutely right, and also to freeze business rates and the £25,000 grant. But I would welcome the current business rate freeze being extended for another 12 months. Another measure the government could introduce that would bring in much-needed tax receipts is to extend the retail export scheme for EU visitors, allowing them to shop tax-free from January the 1st. Such a tax reform could be worth up to £1.4 billion in additional annual sales. Whilst 80% of tax-free shopping in the UK is spent in my constituency, this would still have an impact on the UK as a whole. And finally, adding an additional 2 hours at the end of Sunday trading, extending it from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. would provide a major boost to the economy. Now, while I appreciate that this is quite controversial for some of my colleagues, I would like to make it clear that I'm only calling for it at this moment for international designated areas, such as Knightsbridge and the West End. I'm sure there would be a knock-on effect for bars and restaurants as people decide to travel to central London later and enjoy a meal and drinks once the shops close. Madam Deputy Speaker, we must ensure that London is seen to be open to the world so that it can continue to compete with other global cities such as New York, Paris and Tokyo. I would ask the government to consider these measures, as I have suggested, in order to protect both London's position as a global cultural hub and the UK's standing as a major business and visitor destination, safeguarding millions of jobs and livelihoods across the nation. And I look forward to supporting them as they continue to support jobs and businesses as the current situation develops.